While he's no Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger, the Fisherman has his fans in the wider horror audiences. After all, this is now the 4th film in the franchise so far. However, just like Jeepers Creepers, it's all been downhill since that first one. But to the characters in this universe, the haunting tale of the Southport Massacre is deeply embedded in this small town's lore. Which, just like so many Scream sequels have proven, there is always someone new to take up the mantle and go on the next murderous rampage. For better or for worse. But before we begin, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. We drop weekly reviews and breakdowns as well as tons of other film related content for you to enjoy. I am your host Sarah, put on your party clothes and grab a beer. It's time to find out what these kids did last summer. The film begins 1 year ago as Ava Brooks arrives at her old house to prepare for an engagement party for her best friend Danica. Ava has recently lost her mother and is feeling a bit vulnerable, and so she is nervous that she might run into her old high school boyfriend Milo. Many of the friends attending the party haven't seen each other in quite a while, as people often leave their hometowns when they graduate. They either go to college or they take jobs in other states and so on and so forth. But when they meet back up for the party, they fall right back into their old grooves, as if they just saw each other yesterday. Danica is getting married to Teddy, whose dad is in town's super rich real estate guy, and he's a bit of a dickhead. There's also a girl called Stevie who's kind of bitter and weird, claiming that everyone ditched her after the high school. Probably because of that attitude of hers, but they invite her to the hangout anyway, along with Stevie's friend Hannah. Thoroughly sloshed, they pile into a car to drive off and watch the fireworks display from some cliffside back road. And Teddy, the arsehole that he is, begins clowning around in the middle of the road. He almost gets hit by a car when Milo intervenes in the nick of time, Final Destination style, saving his life. They tell Teddy to get his shit together, but then death attempts to strike again, with a pickup truck barreling down on Teddy. It swerves to avoid him though and crashes through the roadside guardrail, seesawing over the edge of the cliff. The 5 attempt to try and pull the driver out, but doesn't happen. The truck goes over and smashes into the rocks below. If this film was made in the 80s, it would have caught fire and exploded too, but it just kind of tumbles repeatedly into the darkness. Then instead of calling the paramedics and waiting at the scene of the accident, they flee because Teddy might get arrested. Uh-oh. While Danica makes Ava swear she won't tell anyone what happened tonight. Oh no. So it now jumps to 1 year later, and I guess the wedding was postponed for a while because Ava is just not heading back to Southport, but instead this time for the bridal shower during the busiest holiday of the year for that little community, the 4th of July. Ava does hook up with a new friend in a sweaty bathroom petting session called Tyler. And it turns out that she has her very own podcast called Live, Laugh, Slaughter. And she retells creepy stories and whatnot, especially the Southport Massacre of 1997. The two are then picked up by Milo and head to the party. But oh no, Danica and Teddy have already broken up. Could this be a plot twist? And well, she's actually now engaged to White. She didn't wait long, did she? Also, after the past year, Danica and Stevie have grown really close, and Stevie is basically her maid of honour now, mostly because after last year's events, Ava has kept her distance. Well, it's time for the bridal gifts, and drumroll please, we get a little title card dropped in the form of a gift message saying, "I know what you did last summer." Trying to hide her emotions, Danica excuses herself and then privately reveals the message to Ava, Milo and Stevie, saying that she thinks it's from Teddy because he's still a little bit sour over their breakup. So, of course, they hop in the car and go and visit Teddy to confront him about his bullshit move. These days, Teddy spends most of his days like the typical egotistical rich asswads do, drunk on a private boat down at the waterfront. The trio immediately call him out when they get there, and he replies that he had nothing to do with that note, nor has he spoken to Danica or even any of them, for that matter, in months, and they should all just fuck off and leave him be. Given both his drunken state and his apparently low IQ, they agree that he wouldn't have the balls or brains to do something like this, and so the question remains, who sent the note? It's now nighttime and we are at the home of Danica and White. It's been a long, stressful day for the bride-to-be, and so heads upstairs to take a bath with some product placement, Beats headphones to tune out the world around her, while White is cleaning up. He seems like a good dude so far, but that just doesn't matter, because after he sees the lights outside go off and on, he of course investigates. At first he sees nothing out of the ordinary, and so he turns around to head back inside when, he's shot through the back by a harpoon gun. It's then ripped through him, reloaded, and the killer then fires it again, this time through his abdomen, hooking itself deep into his flesh. As he falls to the floor and turns himself to look at the door, trying to crawl to safety, the killer steps into the light, dressed in a rain slicker, mud boots and carrying a fishhook. Oh yes, it's the Fisherman, the legendary killer from the original film. At this point, people in my theatre were cheering, as even though this scene was mostly spoiled in the trailers, it totally captured that nostalgic vibe from the original. And I mean, it sucks for White. RIP my dude, but it's apparently brutal and bloody. After getting slashed up by the hook, we cut back to Danica, who's done with her bath and begins to head downstairs ready for some nookie. When she gasps in horror after seeing her ex-fiancé White propped upright in the kitchen dead. And the words you can't erase, the past smeared in blood on the wall. Now that she's taken the message a little more seriously, Danica brings in the police, something they should have done from the beginning. And her friends join her. Curious though, White wasn't with them when the accident happened. They didn't even know him, so why did the killer target him? Ava, Tyler and Milo put together clues from that day. They know the guy behind the wheel, who was named Sam Cooper, but he wasn't linked to anyone in the group, and so Tyler thinks this is a good time for her to rehash the original 1997 massacre to them. Even though I should point out, outside of the message saying, "I know what you did last summer," no one saw the fisherman kill White, so they have very little similarities so far. But whatever, it's movie logic, of course. The new Scooby gang then of course head to a location where the fisherman had attacked and killed before. And guess what? He's there, and he tries to attack Ava and Tyler. What a coincidence, eh? The killer traps Ava in a cage and then chases after Tyler, who, like many horror victims stupidly do, they head upstairs where there's no escape. Stevie arrives shortly after for some reason, because of a text she got from Ava. Or so she says, anyway. Meanwhile, Tyler is being stabbed to death upstairs. Tyler does manage to unmask the killer, which we of course don't get to see the face, and she manages to utter the words, "you," before dying, meaning that she at least recognised the person, and since she knows like 6 people in this town, the 6 we've been following, well, it has to be one of them, right? Maybe. The fisherman then wraps a rope around her neck and throws her out the window, ending her podcast permanently. Well, since Tyler was so brutally murdered and now we have at least one eyewitness that the fisherman is back, the whole ass town at Southport have a big meeting. They have to discuss what to do, but also how not to disrupt the tourists travelling down to the town's busiest time of the year. Especially Grant, who wants to cover up Tyler's murder by saying it was a suicide. Wow. Sounds like he's a fan of Amity Island's mayor Larry Von Watshark. Sorry if I misread that, I don't know that reference. Right, anyway, enter Ray Bronson, played once again by Freddie Prinze Jr., who says how nah, it's happening again. Turns out he's also Stevie's boss. Linked. Ava is now desperate, and because her town is apparently run by morons, she has no choice but to track down Julia James, reprised by the always lovable Jennifer Love Hewitt. Julie is now a college professor, divorced from Ray, whom she really hates apparently, and wants nothing to do with Southport or that shit that happened back in 1997. But after Ava launches into an exposition dump of everything that's happened in the film so far, Julie feels bad and gives her some of the worst advice you could ever give to anyone in this situation. Investigate the killer yourself, track them down, and catch them. Who is she? Batman? But of course, when the heroine of The Last Massacre tells you that's how she did it, who are you to argue back with her? And so Ava gets to work on becoming Southport's newest detective. She enlists the help of Milo and Stevie and heads to the impound lot, hoping to find Sam's truck and some clues within it. They find out the truck originally belonged to a local pastor named Judah Gillespie, and that Sam had actually stolen it. Uh-oh. Meanwhile, Danica and Teddy, of all people, head over to the graveyard, but not because she's gonna visit White's grave and say goodbye, but rather to investigate the victims of the 1997 massacre, as well as Sam's grave. When they find it, it has fresh flowers on it. Curious, they are then startled by the creepy groundskeeper, and they ask him if he has any security footage that could show them who left the flowers on Sam's grave. But before he can give them the tapes, he gets his throat slashed by big old fishhook. Teddy tries to do something, but the fisherman chases after Danica instead, and she runs into a nearby building which happens to house a parade float. The killer corners her, and it's about to get ready to make her part of the display, when Teddy comes crashing in like Superman and knocks the fisherman away, grabbing up Danica's hand and running off with her to safety. Double tap, bro, always double tap. There's 2 against 1 here. Why didn't they whoop the killer's ass? I'm not sure. Back to Milo and Ava, there's some sexual tension growing and the two begin to get frisky. When suddenly all brakes are pumped because, I shit you not, Ava asked him to choke her. Milo ain't down for that and goes out to his car to literally psych himself up for it, because the powerhouse of boners compels him. Well, as this film doesn't seem to have enough irony before he can go back inside, Milo is snatched up by the fisherman, who wraps a rope around his neck and chokes him to death. C'est la vie. The killer then sends a text to Ava via Milo's phone, giving her the impression that Milo wasn't feeling it and headed home for the night. No hanky-panky for you, Ava. The next day, Ray goes to visit Julie, because he somehow heard that Julie told Ava to investigate the murders, even though he has no connection to Ava and... oh yeah, Stevie spilled the beans, didn't she? Well, he huffs and he puffs and tries to blow Julie's house down, but the power of her hatred is too strong for this Padawan, and she reminds him if it weren't for her keen intellect, they wouldn't have survived the first incident or the second. But in a way, he's also right, and maybe they should get involved to go and help them since they are the OGs. We then cut over to Danica and Ava, who are heading to the church where the priest used to preach. Here they find Hannah, and if you don't remember her, that's okay. She was a random girl who tagged along in the opening scene of the film, one of Stevie's friends. They also finally get to meet Judah, who seems a bit reluctant to discuss anything about Sam, while Ava, not Valma, interviews Judah for more information. Then Danica sneaks off into his office pretending to have to use the bathroom. She goes through his notebook and finds some pictures of Judah and Sam together, marking that the two did at least know each other, and pretty well at that. She snatches up this evidence and then regroups with Ava, and the two head to the police station, somehow sure they have the killer caught red-handed. It's pretty flimsy evidence though, And even the police agree, so the police tell them to stay put. They're going to make some phone calls to see what's what. Back at Teddy's house, he's just chilling when suddenly the fisherman strikes again. Teddy tries to fight back but gets stabbed multiple times. When his dad sees what's happening, he tries to run over and help, but also takes a hook to the neck, opening up the real estate market in Southport to new firms. We once again jump back to the police station where Danica has fallen asleep. Are you ready for a very weird cameo? While trying to sleep, Danica has a strange nightmare, and it's of Helen Shivers. You know, Sarah Michelle Gellar's character from the 1970 film, who stupidly turned around and got killed instead of dashing into the well-lit crowded street of safety. Well, in the nightmare, for some reason, Helen is standing over White's dead body, wielding a hook, and tells her she's gonna get what she deserves. Danica is a bit freaked out and she wakes up, and so the police just tell her to go home. I'm being serious. I know you've been traumatized recently, but you have a dangerous killer after you, so you should go free. What the hell, police? As they leave, they meet up with Stevie and decide they should get the crew together and get the hell out of town. Well, first stop is Teddy's, and they find him and his dad strung up in a gruesome display. Then they find Milo's car and his dead body is in the back seat. Both Danica and Ava break down and cry about it, so Stevie takes charge, and she knows just what to do. She's gonna steal Teddy's boat. Meanwhile, the police have just now shown up at the church to question Judah, only to find out that he's been murdered in the meantime. His eyes are gouged out and his body left kneeling in front of all the religious stuff. There's a picture on the wall as well. It's of Judah, Sam and, dun dun dun, Stevie. We cut back to the trio of survivors, and they are now far enough out to sea where Stevie drops anchors, and because the movie has to hurry up and get to the climax, just up and reveals that she is the fisherman. Like, hi, it's me, I'm the problem, it's me. Sam was apparently her secret boyfriend, and the reason he was on the road that night was because Stevie was feeling uncomfortable hanging out with them and called him to pick her up. But she had no idea it was him in the truck that night until the next morning when she read it in the paper. Even though she was there and they all tried to help the rescue driver, but okay. So basically for the past year she's been plotting revenge. First to take everyone away from their lovers so they feel her pain. Blah blah, and then take their own lives and put them out the misery, etc. All the other people just got in the way. Just as Stevie grabs Danica and holds her captive at hook point, somehow Ray arrives knowing exactly where they'd be and tries to stop her. Danica then gets stabbed in the chest and falls into the water, to which Ray responded by blasting Stevie with a .44 and sending her into the murky depths as well. He then commandeers the boat and turns it around, heading back to port. Being very needy right now, aren't you? Nearly done, okay? Ava contacts Julie, and Julie makes the remark that Stevie couldn't have done all these murders by herself. There had to be more people involved. Could it be Hannah, maybe? Well, also I stupidly thought, because plot twist, Ray is the second killer. Stevie wanted to apparently spare Ava because Ava actually showed empathy and wanted to do the right thing. And so Ray, who still hasn't gotten over his trauma of the first Southport massacre, wants to make sure no one else forgets about it, and has staged this whole thing to be a kind of copycat whatever deal. Okay, what the absolute fuck is this shit? Julie then somehow magically shows up, confronts Ray, distracting him long enough for Ava to shoot him dead with the harpoon gun. Then Ava and Julie stand side by side and proclaim fuck the 4th of July. But wait, there's more. Danica washes up on shore alive, and so they bring her to the hospital. A few days later, she meets up with Ava to have some lunch and rekindle their friendship, when Ava reveals Stevie is also still alive. How she knows this is anyone's guess though. The credits begin to roll, and then we get a mid-post credit kind of dealio, where we get another cameo throwback, and this time of Carla Wilson, played by Brandy, who happens to be watching the news about the most recent Southport incident, and seeing that this time Ray was a killer, but Stevie is still at large. Julie then shows up at her house and hands her a note that reads, "It's not over." And Carla just looks at her, determined, answering back, "Who we gonna fuck up this time?" The end. Finally, I'm done. I quit. I can totally understand wanting to have a surprise twist, especially in a whodunit style horror film, but what the hell was that? It was so poorly executed, and it didn't even make sense really, nor did it feel genuine or inspired. I'm sure whatever person came up with this was as happy as calm, clapping themselves on the back, proudly exclaiming they've done it. The perfect mystery, and made us all suffer through this most mind-numbing slasher flick to hit theatre in a decade. I don't want to go on a long-winded rant about how awful this film is, but it almost feels like they did it on purpose. Like this was some spoof of the genre that just missed the mark maybe. I don't know. What else is there to really say? This film just wasn't worth the time and effort that they put into it. But what did you think? Are you a fan of the franchise? And if so, which is your favourite film? Or even character in the series? Let us know in the comments below. I want to thank you all for checking out this full breakdown. Make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel, as we put out new reviews and breakdowns each week, as well as tons of other film related content. I have been your host Sarah, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Take care everyone. Goodbye.